Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, dear friends. Welcome once again to Kardec Radio. Always, always, always 24/7, nourishing our souls. Hello, dear sunshine.
Hello, dear Carol.
Nice to be together for the good once again. And Sunshine and myself are here every Saturday at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, 10:30 Pacific Standard Time, to study together with the Spirit Doctor Andre Luiz through this beautiful book entitled Between Heaven and Earth. We are very grateful to Andre Luiz because thanks to his tireless work and thanks to Chico Xavier's beautiful mediumship, we are truly able to study the interactions between our physical plane and the spiritual plane. Andre Luiz opens the veil to our eyes and reveals how much we are influenced by the scarlet spirits, even while incarnated. And today we are going to study chapter 5 of this precious narrative entitled An Invaluable Lesson. Our dear Sunshine now is going to offer us a summary of chapter 5 and then guide us through the highlights that we would like to study together. Please, dear friends, feel free to comment, ask questions, participate as much as possible so we can learn from one another. Together is always better. And if you are listening to us on demand, please feel embraced, and we thank you for holding this current of light together with us. And hello, dear Brianna. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and afternoon, right, Sunshine?
Yes, hello, Rihanna. What a blessing. Thank you. So we're turning our attention to chapter 5, as Carol said. And we're reminded of last time when we gathered, we left it off that the team, that the so-called research team that consists of Minister Clarencio, or Eulalia, Hilario, and Andre, finding themselves now following Odila and Zulmira to the beach. The last scene was that Zulmira was sleeping and her spirit was harassed, so to speak, obsessed by Odila. And she tried to escape Odila and rushed towards the beach. And this is where we're picking up the story, because this beautiful team is following Odila and Zulmira towards the beach. And at the seashore, they are observing that the spiritual activity was very intense. And they saw many discarnates that were meeting with friends, still incarnate, but during their sleep time. So they were freed from their body, and they were all mingling at the seashore. And they observed spiritually constructive conversations and dolorous laments. And the team and other spirits were passing out urgent magnetic passes to those who were in pain and lamenting. And a refreshing breeze was blowing from afar, bearing regenerative principles and filling us, he says, with a wonderful feeling of well-being. So this is Andre describing his experience, or their experience, while they found themselves also at the seashore. Clarencio explains how that is. He says the ocean is a miraculous reservoir of energies. And he says a lot of fellow spirits from our plane, namely the spirit plane, brings ailing, still incarnate brothers and sisters to the seashore for healing and rest. He continues to say, discarnate nurses and friends take great care in helping their wards recover their energies there. Similar to what happens on a tree-covered mountain. So there's two areas they're highlighting, Clarencio is highlighting. One is the seashore that is very helpful for healing and regeneration, and tree-covered mountains. He says the oceanside atmosphere and the tree-covered mountain areas are impregnated with infinite, vitalizing resources found in nature, untainted oxygen, combined with emanations from the planet, are converted into valuable nourishment for our spiritual makeup, especially if we're still directly or indirectly connected to the fluids of dense matter. Let us pause here for a moment. So there's several new ideas for us that Minister Clarencio is helping us to understand. One is that when we go to the seashore or tree-covered mountains, we are exposing ourselves. Doesn't matter whether we are in spirit or actually incarnated in our physical forms, but he's, of course, speaking from the spirit perspective. We are exposing ourselves to incredible, rich emanations, both from the planet as well as from the ocean or the tree, the mountains. So there is spirits, there is energies that congregate in these areas that are helpful for our healing, the healing of our perispirits, because it is our perispirits that mold our physical form. So healing or diseases show up first in the perispirit, and then ultimately healing takes place first in the perispirit too, and only later calcifies or shows up in our physical form. So we've heard from science as we're living on the earth that there's negative ions that are abundant in nature. Negative ions, so to speak, are atoms or molecules that are induced or that are, how should we say, energized by electrons and protons, which are aspects of atoms. And what happens is the negative charge is the one that is healing, not the positive one, which we find more often in inner city traffic and the like. So there's even actually, as an aside, there's healing methods that we can expose ourselves to, which is called the negative air ionization therapy. You can buy those machines that create it actually in your homes, or you can go to healing practices. Anyway, so what we wanted to say is negative ions are abundant in nature, especially around waterfalls and the ocean surf, at the beach, in the mountains and forests. And what they do is they neutralize free radicals. They revitalize also our cell metabolism and have a positive impact on our central nervous system. In other words, they enhance our immune function. So this is one way how we can reverse itching, how we can reverse ailments, diseases, and how we can boost our immune system. And that's what we know from science here on this side. But now, of course, we're learning that this is rooted in the wisdom of the spirit side, that this is where spirits in their perispirit are taken for regeneration. Right, Carol?
Right, Sunshine. What a beautiful explanation you just gave us. And these are the principles of homeopathy as well, using the energetic properties of plants, flowers, and nature as a whole to heal us as instruments of healing. And we, as Sunshine just mentioned, who are aware of the dynamics of ours and how it impacts the physical are one step ahead of material science, because we know that we can heal ourselves ever more deeply. The healing is truly within our hands. And this is also what Master Jesus exemplified when he was incarnated here on earth. He often utilized of nature as a instrument of healing. For instance, when he healed the blind man, he used mud that was readily available there to cleanse the vision of that man. So we too can do what Master Jesus has done and much more. These are not our words, these are his words, dear friends. So let us put into practice the beautiful teachings that Sunshine brought to us. If we are able to, let us go and walk in the midst of nature and take advantage of this exchange, healing exchange that is readily available for everyone. And we also know from the book Evolution in Two Worlds, also by our dear Luiz, through our beloved Chico Xavier, that the brothers and sisters of ours who are doing their internships in the lower realms, like the vegetable realm and the mineral realm, as well as the animal kingdom, they are tutored by loving, loving, loving spirits that help with the revitalization of their own vital principles so that they can be of service to us. So, if we go back to one of the most beautiful pillars of our spirit science, which is without charity, there is no salvation, we already noticed that nature is in that position of constantly giving. And we know that there are wise spirits, whom André Luiz calls genies, watching over those lower kingdoms so we can constantly receive renewal from them. So let us, when we observe nature, Kardec argues that we are closer to God when we observe nature. So now, when we observe nature, let us give back to them as well. Let us make it a sacred encounter, as described in this beautiful chapter, and let us open ourselves to receive the natural divine healing and also give back, to say to trees and flowers, thank you for your love, thank you for your service. To say to little animals, thank you for your companionship, thank you for your love. To say to the mineral kingdom, thank you for giving of yourself on our behalf. Let us together develop this higher understanding of how much our brothers and sisters doing internships in the lower realms give of themselves. Right, Sunshine?
Beautiful, Carol. Yes. I just want to walk out into nature to the beach right now.
Yes, I want to walk out to the little forest outside the door here too. Yes, let's all really express our gratitude. Right, Sunshine? Right, Nora, Brazil?
Hi, Nora.
Big kiss to you and to Rihanna. We feel the love and the love feels good.
Very grateful.
Yes. Shall we continue, Sunshine?
Uh-huh. So they are now seeing a lady in Paris spiritual form who has cancer. And so here comes Minister Clarencio to explain to us what is going on with this sister who is suffering from cancer. She's an incarnate, but temporarily freed from her physical form during sleep. And she appears to come to the seashore quite often. And here is what we're learning. So when spirit friends provide assistance that affects the subtle tissues of the soul, it is possible to accomplish wonders when the person is partially disengaged from the body. So in other words, this sister with cancer is coming for help. And he's explaining that when that happens, a lot of so-called miracles, we know they're not miracles, but so-called healing effects can take place. And he further says, by acting on the perispiritual centers, we, the spirits, can sometimes cause profound changes in patients' health, changes that gradually show up in the somatic body. As we said earlier, diseases start on the soul level, then they show up in the perispirit, and then later on in the most dense part of us, the physical form. And the healing, of course, is the reverse path. So as they say, then these changes that happen in the perispiritual form, in this case, for those souls who come to the seashore, we're just talking about one example, like the sister with cancer, may find some profound changes in her somatic body over time. Consequently, he says, serious illnesses can be cured and striking renewals can be accomplished. How beautiful. Especially when we find the workings of prayer and faith involved. So these are two main ingredients for us to note, mental note to self. If we're not only sick, but we're talking about an illness right now, to really find ourselves in a prayerful lifestyle. So prayer and faith, very important, faith. And then he says, thereby interventions are greatly facilitated. And then he says, the physical body is maintained by the spiritual body and adjusts itself to its form. So this is the opposite of what some of us may actually think is the case, right?
Right. Yeah.
On earth that we can't often look beyond our physical body, and we think it all starts and ends with it, but that's not the case. It says, in this way, our influence on the spirit body is crucial for the physical body, which the mind uses to express itself. So let us pause again for a moment, because this really touches on a very, very important subject, namely healing. Now, when we go to Genesis, there is a beautiful explanation from the more spiritual scientific aspect of what actually happens behind the scenes of what Clarencio is helping us to understand. It's in chapter 14, if you like to study it or read it. And it's the
I will write it down for us.
Wonderful, Carol. Yeah, chapter 14, it's entitled The Fluid. And referring in particular to items 31 through 34. So here we need to know that the universal cosmic fluid is the primitive element of both our corporeal body and our perispirit. As a matter of fact, of everything that is in the universe, it's different forms and shapes and densities of the universal cosmic fluid. But right now we're just focusing on our physical body and our perispirit. So healing occurs by replacing an unhealthy molecule with a healthy one. So there's a replacement happening. And it is the fluid that performs the role of the therapeutic agent. So the therapeutic agent is this fluidic exchange from unhealthy molecules to healthy molecules. That is called the magnetic path. We know it from the third centers with the magnetic passes, right? That's
right.
one expression of how healing can happen, where negative fluids are replaced by positive, unhealthy ones. So the incarnate or discarnate spirit injects then a portion of the fluid envelope into a deteriorating body. What's the help of these seashore energies and molecules? So in this case, in our story. So then the curative power is a direct result of the purity of the spirit's fluidic substance. Because remember, we have change. And the energy of the spirit's will and intention is pivotal. So if we say, let's assume Minister Clarencio performs this exchange of fluids, these magnetic passes, this magnetic action, his will and his intention, the stronger it is, the more these elements have energy behind them, the more trading they are. And of course, the receiver needs to be open to faith and prayer and also the willpower to heal, right? So it's definitely teamwork. So then the healing action sometimes is slow. So there's many repetitive visits, like in our sister we're finding in the story. She comes repeatedly to the shore, but it also can be really quick. Those are the so-called instant healings. And so it can be quick or slow. And when we look at the magnetic passes, for example, that most of us are probably familiar with, we see that there can either, it's the magnetizer's own fluid, the pass giver, who facilitates, who let's say is an incarnate, who facilitates the healing. So it would be our healthy perispiritual fluids replacing the unhealthy ones of the pass receiver. But there's another form that happens, and that is when the spirit fluid is the one who facilitates the exchange. A spirit that works directly, like in the case of our story, works directly on the perispirit of the incarnate. And there's a third one where the spirit fluids combined with the incarnate fluid work on the receiving, on the ailing perispiritual body. So there's three different manifestations. Here in our story, it's the one where the spirits acting on the perispirit of an incarnate sister who is temporarily asleep. And the success of this healing is dependent on the quality of the fluids. So if we want to heal, or if we want to be good pass givers, or if we want to be effective in helping our brothers and sisters in that way, it's so important for cleansing our own perispirit, right? It's our inner transformational work that is really at the core, and our own prayerful and faith-oriented lifestyle. So those are, so, and what I want to say in closing, and then I'm going to pass it on to you.
Sure.
So it is really not a miracle that happens when these healings take place, because as we can see, they actually fall under the law of nature. So they can be explained, as we just tried to summarize this beautiful chapter that hopefully everyone is entitled, is likely to look at, or is hopefully looking at. We can see this is actually explained through the law of nature, not a miracle. Right, Carol?
Oh, beautiful, Sunshine. Thank you for bringing this peals of love and light to us. We feel healing already just by listening and learning, and that is so right. It reminds us of the encounter of Master Jesus with the senator, Roman senator Publius Lentulus, portrayed in the book 2,000 years ago by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. We see that in the moment Publius Lentulus comes to Master Jesus, he comes as a desperate, anguished father looking for the healing of his young daughter who was suffering from leprosy 2,000 years ago. And Master Jesus says to him categorically, "It is the faith of your wife that shall heal your daughter." Meaning, it is not enough to ask, it is not enough to come to the Master, but it is mandatory, according to the laws of action and reaction, for us to elevate our vibratory tone and emissions to a point where we are at a higher frequency, so that our perispiritual body, can capture the healing light coming from a more evolved spirit. So why is it that the Senator Publius Lentulus could not help with the healing of his daughter? Because his vibratory tone was still lower due to his pride and due to his vanity and selfishness. While he met with Master Jesus, he said, "I am a senator of the Roman Republic. You shall kneel to me because you are my subject." He said that mentally to Master Jesus, and Master Jesus responded beautifully. We highly recommend that everyone reads this beautiful dialogue. But Master Jesus is very clear. It is not you who is cooperating with the healing. Why? Because the sunshine explained Publio Lentulus was not yet able to elevate the vibratory tone of his perispiritual body. Thus, he could not co-create healing with the Master. The Master does not break the laws of the universe. The divine laws determine that we are co-creators. So yes, God in her infinite abundance provides. The question for us as Sunshine presented is, are we ready and open to receiving the abundance that is provided? Because the abundance is definitely there. The question is, are we doing our part to be at the same level or similar level as this abundance is, vibratorily speaking? So if we could assess ourselves, what quality do our vibratory emanations currently have? Are we promoting healing, co-creating healing ourselves, or are we co-creating more dis-ease? How do we know? It depends, as Sunshine explained, on the quality of our fluids. How do we measure the quality of our fluids? Through the feelings and thoughts that are most central to our daily lives. So if we could write down on a piece of paper our most central, common, repeated, recurring feeling and thought, we would know what the quality of our fluidic emanations are, and thus where our vibratory tone is. Master Jesus is calling on all of us to co-create more healing to the earth right now, because the earth is convulsing from vibrations that are very harsh at the moment. So we are all being called to be healers as well, right, Sunshine? So let us together do a conscious exercise, dear friends, to elevate our vibratory emanations so that we can co-create more healing, not only for ourselves and our own balance, perispiritually speaking, but also on benefit of others, as the mentor Clarencio is doing. He is there at the beach, not only thinking of himself and his own inner harmony, but he is there to offer inner harmony to others. So this is the exercise that we are being invited to do. This is not just for mentor Clarencio, because we are co-creators as well. So the therapeutic question for us is, are we co-creating healing as well? What have we been co-creating lately? Right, Sunshine?
It's so important what you're speaking, Carol.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes our moral obligation to work on our inner transformation of becoming
Right.
more Christ-like, because the convulsions of planet Earth that you're talking about are really a reflection of our own convulsions.
Yes.
The earth is not out there and separate from us. The earth and the people and the organizations, whatever we're experiencing, are a reflection of us. So how can we contribute? Yes, exactly. This book and others by Andre Luiz help us so clearly to understand where our work lies. not only help ourselves, but our brothers and sisters, right? Because it's a global shift that we're part and parcel of.
Yes, and Jesus is counting on us, right?
Yes,
Fine.
exactly. Yeah, so Minister Clarencio is not finished. He's teaching us more.
Good, we need it.
So we are going back to our sister who is suffering from cancer. And again, she's an incarnate who is temporarily out of her, freed from her body, of course, connected to her body while her body rests, but she's the cord, but she's at the seashore. And so he says, however, what we do is subject, so this healing action, that the support they're giving her is subject to the law that governs us. He says, regarding the sister's problem, help from our plane, namely the spirit plane, can only provide her little comfort. Because of the trials she must endure, the disease has spread too far. So we're learning that her body is quite taken over by cancer, and that the support that comes from the spirit team at the seashore in this example can only give her little comfort. So healing is not of a physical form, is not per se taking place. He also says the work that we're doing is helping her increase her inner light of conscience.
Right.
And as a result, she will disengage herself from her diseased body and beloved environment like one who finds physical death to be a wonderful deliverance for a more ennobling form of work. So essentially, the work that they're doing will help her to discarnate more easily. It will help her to see the discarnation as actually a gift, as her next step in her evolution. And then he adds, a long illness is a blessing in disguise because it prepares the soul for the great liberation, which is our discarnation. Unless the disease is long-lasting, a quick success in the endeavor of death is very difficult. So this is really important for us to note. When we see loved ones or friends in the discarnation process, and they may be suffering from long, drawn-out illnesses, and we want to jump to conclusions and judge them as cruel and evil, as a lot of people do. We now learning, we're getting a different, much more healing, much more heart-opening perspective, and that is the purpose, the service a long, drawn-out illness serves. And it is helping the disconnection of the perispirit from the physical form. So it's a blessing in disguise. And it is exactly that the spirits on the seashore are helping this sister with in order to have an easier discarnation, because it can be very hard. We read about that, and if we want to study more, in Heaven and Hell, there is particularly one chapter that is entitled The Passage. It's in the second half of Heaven and Hell that helps us understand in depth of how we can prepare ourselves today, right from this moment on, for our discarnation, and what work we can do to facilitate not only our discarnation, but also the rest of our lifetime. So it's a very exciting chapter. In the meantime, we would like to refer back when he says that what we do is subject to the law that governs the universe. Now let us see what he means by that. So when we go to the Gospel, according to Spiritism, chapter 27, which is entitled, Ask and You Shall Receive. It's the part that is further entitled, subchapter, The Effectiveness of Prayer. You can find it on page 387.
Thank you, Sunshine.
Make it easy, right?
Yeah, thank you. I can write this down. So it's chapter 27, you've said, Sunshine?
Ask and you shall receive, The Effectiveness of Prayer. And it's page 387. And I can say it again at the end.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what we learn there is whatever we may ask for in prayer, because earlier we said, right, we want to pray more and practice
Mm-hmm.
faith. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever we may ask for in prayer will be granted to us. But will be granted to you. It's not necessarily the case. So in other words, when we ask for something in prayer, when we want something in particular, say healing of the physical body from cancer, it may not necessarily be granted. We go why what's going on, right?
Right.
And then often we resort to accusing God, divine providence, um, for where is God? Why God doesn't like me? God doesn't love me. What's going on? We get angry at God. And so why is it that when we pray for something, it will not always be granted to us? So here's the explanation. So without doubt, there are natural and immutable laws that govern the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And God, Him, hers itself, cannot derogate from them also.
Mm-hmm.
So divine laws cannot be derogated from. They are fixed, they're mutable, just like God, right? So since we humans are free to act, we have free will, our actions have consequences dependent on what we do or fail to do. So law of cause and effect. Over are the immutable God's laws. So there are events that inevitably escape fatalism, however. That means predestined, there are events that can be changed, in other words, and which do not destroy in their being changed the harmony of the universal laws. So sometimes we pray, in other words, and the prayers are answered. Why? Because they're not maybe big enough, or they do not destroy the harmony of the universal laws. So they're not that grave in a way, right? It's hard to put words to it, but I think we're getting it, right? And so, but in these more minor derogations of God's laws, God can accede to certain requests without derogating from the immutability of the laws that govern the whole.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the moments when we pray and it gets granted. But then on the other side, there's some trials and consequences based on the law of cause and effect and our free will and our choices that we have to see the trials to the very end. And the intentions or prayers may not change the course of events, because if they did, it would disrupt the disharmony of the universe. The laws don't allow it. But in those cases, which is exactly the case of our sister who is suffering from cancer, in her case, she has to see the trial to the end. She's being helped, however, in her discarnation process. So it's not like God forgot her or doesn't like her or likes her less than Carol and me or vice versa. It's the laws. We understand, right? So this is what she needs to go through in order for her healing of the soul, for her trial that she needs to experience in this lifetime. However, what God always gives us is courage. God always gives us patience and always resignation. So prayer, in other words, is never wrong. Even if we don't get what we want, we get what we need, which can be, in the sister's case, support in the discarnation, but it can also come through courage, patience, and resignation. So prayer is always right, but now I hopefully will understand what Clarencio is referring to, that the immutability of the law is above it all. So not always can we be granted healing of the physical body. Right, Carol?
Right, Sunshine. Thank you for this beautiful explanation. And as you said, the illness, what we perceive as illness from a physical standpoint, is in fact a healing process. Because we know that when, from a spiritist immortal standpoint, when cancer or other diseases manifest themselves in the physical body, it is one, because the spirit is strong and ready. Two, because whatever this is, not only cancer but other diseases as well, are a pathway for God to allow for our perispiritual body to expunge, to rid itself of denser vibrations. And thus, for us as a whole, holistically speaking, to become lighter and more balanced. So, are we saying that, oh, let's pray so we get ill? No, we are not saying that, but we are saying if God allows for our body to expunge denser vibrations, let us not feel like God doesn't love us. Let us not feel like we are forsaken. Let us not feel that other people are more important than we are, but rather let us learn together how to read, interpret, encode this situation differently. Is it easy? No, it isn't at all easy, because the mainstream society doesn't know what we know, and we will be showered with challenging observations. But we have the spiritist understanding to hold on to. So it's like we are climbing a mountain, the mountain of life, and the climb is steep and tiring, and our spiritual muscles are hurting because we are using muscles we haven't used before, and we feel like we may slip, but we have the rope. We have the rope of discernment, the rope of God's love, the rope of divine providence, and the rope of light, eternal light, to show us that this is often the solution, that we need not short term, but rather long term, eternally speaking. And it sounds like Teddy agrees, right, Teddy? Teddy agrees with us. Thank you, Teddy. He is participating of the study today. We have a special guest. Also, we learn, right, Sunshine, as we hold on to the rope of discernment and faith during our climb, we learn that oftentimes we are the ones who ask for these diseases to manifest themselves in us prior to reincarnation. If we would like to see examples of that documented, we suggest that we read the book Memoirs of a Suicide. Oh, Teddy! Yay! Everybody is happy that Teddy is participating. He is a spiritist dog. He's going to be ahead of the game when he becomes a human, because he will have all this knowledge already registered. Go, Teddy. Hi, Nora. Thank you. We all welcome Teddy. So, anyways, we know that, if we read the book Memoirs of a Suicide, we will see that Mario Silva, for instance, asked to not have arms because he used his arms for taking someone's physical life away previously, so now he asks to have it removed. Is it easy? No. Do we want it? Not necessarily. But he knows it is the cure for his spirit, that his spirit will emerge stronger from the struggle. So when we face a struggle, here's another exercise for us. What are we learning from the point of view of eternity, immortality, what virtue is God granting us the ability to develop? Because God only allows, quote unquote, discomfort to manifest because God knows that good will emerge. So why not attune our minds with God and already purposefully look for the good that is emerging? This is a great exercise for all of us, including ourselves, to look at the good that is emerging, because we tend to be very good on a larger scale, collectively speaking, to look at what is not working, what we lack, what we could or should or wanted to have. But Master Jesus has modeled to us the opposite. Let us look for the good. So let us equate challenge with the good, treasure hunt for us. Where's the good in this challenge? Let us do treasure hunt for immortality. Where's the good in the challenge? Right, Sunshine?
Yeah, it is so beautiful. I mean, we're reminded also of Jesus's beatitude. Blessed are the afflicted, for they
Yes.
will be comforted.
Yes.
If there is a blessing in disguise in every illness, including cancer, which is so common these days on
Yes.
earth, is really that we open up also to God and draw closer to God, that we practice. Carol, you were speaking of what do we need to learn, right?
Right.
Well, one of the things that God gives us in order to get through suffering, encounter, is, as we heard earlier, courage. So it's courage to become more courageous is one of the aspects. And then what we receive from God further is patience.
Right.
When we are suffering from any kind of ailment, patience is so important. And lastly, beautiful resignation, which is the surrender of our heart.
Right.
When we open, and that is what we so beautiful, as you mentioned, see displayed and explained in memory of a suicide.
Yes.
Where those who committed suicide, the spirits in that book, go through this whole process of actually wanting to be incarnated with certain deficiencies and malfunctions of the body.
Yes, Camilo is going to reincarnate blind, right, Sunshine? Mario Silva is going to reincarnate without hands, right?
Exactly.
And others as well.
Exactly. So if we can keep that, and this is the good news that we so love spiritism, right? And Jesus' message. And that is reframing. It's like really seeing the truth of the disease, of an ailment, of a challenge. To see the truth is actually to see it as a blessing, because we co-created it. We wanted it. It's not like coming down as a punishment. No, it is. And again, Memoirs of a Suicide is a beautiful example. You know, we actually want to be, we really are praying to be reincarnated with this particular deficiency and experience to advance. So it is a blessing. Blessed by cancer, right? Blessed by whatever it is, whatever illness we are experiencing. And that is not to say that we're reckless, of course.
Right.
The law of preservation helps us to understand that we are here to also love and take care of our physical body. So use of the physical body would only lead us to be labeled, as Andre Luiz after his discarnation, an indirect suicide. So that is also important for us to realize, right? So it's we're taking care of our body, but when something while we're taking care of it happens and we need to go through it, let us reframe it as a blessing in disguise and work with it. And we see this beautiful example here in the book. We always help is nearby. We always get assistance.
And if I may, Sunshine, this exercise of reframing also works for when we see others undergoing challenges, because it's very common in our larger collective society for us to feel compassion to the point of pitying the person who is undergoing this experience and wishing for them to be in a different state, and even telling them that we wish they were not in this situation. Of course we mean well, but we who hold the light of discernment in our hands, this divine light, literally, know that we do not have to pity those who are undergoing challenges, that God is counting on us to cheer them on, to say, you are strong spirit, you are capable, you are going to succeed, because God only gave you this opportunity because God believes in you. See how the rhetoric is different. Rather than saying, oh, poor you, we wish you were like us, we say, God believes in you. You are strong. You can go through this and you will emerge even stronger. This is what God is calling upon us to do, not put someone down because they are not like us, but rather raise them up, tell them that we believe in them as eternal spirits, right, Sunshine?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Carol, for
Of
pointing
course,
Yeah.
yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
Yes. So then we're going back to the beach.
Yes, let's
the
go
beach.
back to the beach.
Yes,
Who
it
says we can't go to the beach, right?
Yes, and here and now we become witnesses of the obsessive struggle that's happening between Odila and Zulmira. So Zulmira is obsessed by Odila. Now Odila was the mother of little what was his name?
Julio. Yes, Julio. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Julio.
Right, Julio.
Who died in the waves of the ocean. And that's why originally they rushed to the ocean during this nighttime, these two spirits. And it was because Zulmira, the stepmother of Julio, did not really take care of him while he was at the ocean and actually wished for him to die. However, we learned in a previous chapter that there was a reason. He was destined. Julia was destined to discarnate at a young age. But Odila is not forgiving this moment of lack of care that Zulmira displayed. It led to Julio's death. And so she is running after Zulmira and it says, remember your crime, you wretch. She's yelling at Odila. Odila is yelling at Zulmira. Remember that awful morning when you became a murderer. Why did you drown an innocent child? Odila is the original mother, but she's discarnated, right? And Zulmira is still incarnated, but during nighttime, freed from her body. And so, why weren't you watching my child? Odila says. And then Zulmira responds, all right. I didn't kill him, but I didn't do what I should have done or could have done. Namely, observe him better, watch him more carefully while he was asleep. Please forgive me, Zulmira is pleading to Odila. But Odila says, never will I forgive you. Your wrong is unforgivable. You committed murder. You must go to the police and turn yourself in. And Zulmira is not willing to do it. And Odila is also very logical. She said, so if you didn't murder my son, then give him back to me. Of course, it's doable. And so then they're reaching that spot where this dreaded accident happened. And so Mia runs from it as she feels Odila really getting close to her and goes back towards her body. Remember, she was asleep. And there she awakes and she is bathed in sweat and she's trying to scream. Her coronary arteries are all popped out, but she can't. Clarencio, however, and here we see a good spirit, a high order spirit, always helping, gave her magnetic passes, relaxing fluids to her body and perispirit. And then eventually Zulmira is awake enough and feels better, is, however, asking for help. So in this scene that completes our chapter, we again see this obsessive mechanism playing out. That is something that is rampant around us, in maybe probably in our own lives, if not continuously at times, and is so important for us to be conscious of, right, Carol?
Right, absolutely right. And how do we know that we may be enveloped in this process? If we carry on with a single idea repetitively in our minds, if we go to sleep thinking of an idea, wake up thinking of it, have breakfast thinking of it, have lunch thinking of it, go walk Teddy or any other adorable little dog thinking of it, and still cannot stop thinking of it, we will get into this vicious cycle of only being stuck in a particular traumatic moment. And this is what fuels obsession, being psychologically stuck in a traumatic moment. And we see that this blinds us, because though the spirit mentors are right there, Clarencio is right there, Andre Luiz is right there, Odila or Zumira cannot see them. So we are being invited by the spirit mentors of Kardec Radio and our own spirit mentors to watch the mental landscape that we are harvesting inside of our minds, because it is the seeds that we plant in our minds, as Sunshine often says, that determines whether we are going to be in a prison created by ourselves, or if we are going to elevate ourselves to be in the company of loving spirits like Clarencio, who are always there for us. This is the message of hope of today, right, Sunshine? We are never alone, and we always have loving spirits surrounding us. It solely depends on us to open the doors of our inner sanctuary to them. Right, Sunshine?
Right. So we're invited by Clarencio really to pray more and practice faith more, to really connect and live a God-centered life, aligning our will with God's will. And that will help us on all levels in our lives, and not only us, but our little crumbs of light will then be spread among our brothers and sisters too, because it is important that we always keep an eye on everyone else too, to be of service oriented, right, Carol?
So be it. Yes, you are right on, Sunshine.
So we will meet again next week, same time, same place, so God willing. Yes, we will continue with our study. Next week we will be studying chapter 6, which is entitled In a Christian Home, and we can barely wait and see how the story unfolds, right, Carol?
Yes, it's going to be beautiful. Lots of nourishment for our souls.
Yes. So many blessings to everyone. God bless you, and we will see you again.
Bye, friends.
Bye.